You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis. You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Good morning, Car Clinic affiliates. Your Car Clinic minutes for the week of September 10th, 2018 are about to head your way. So go ahead and press the record button. As always, thank you for broadcasting and listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Have a great weekend.
Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. Cucumbers, jazz, Gwyneth Paltrow, and khakis. Speaking of cool things, how's your vehicle's cooling system stacking up for the summer? Don't sweat it. When I come back, I'll tell you how to chill out.
O'Reilly. Improve visibility and save $8 on a pair of Rain-X Latitude wiper blades. Plus, earn double points during Old Rewards Member Appreciation Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Ensure clear vision in any weather and save $8 on a pair of Rain-X Latitude wiper blades at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
It's hot and you're working hard. You can't go another foot till you cool off. Aha! Now you know how your car feels. In fact, overheating's the #1 cause of breakdowns. Like our bodies have a cooling system, cars do too. They rely on radiators to keep their engines from boiling over. To properly cool, these systems must be maintained with correct proportions and levels of coolant-water mixture. So this summer, think cool, calm, and collect the money saved by Radiator Check. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. On her way to Oz, Dorothy feared lions and tigers and bears. Oh no! But they're child's play compared to critters who might homestead in your car. Oh yes! When I come back, I'll name names.
O'Reilly.
Improve visibility and save $8 on a pair of Rain-X Latitude wiper blades. Plus, earn double points during Old Rewards Member Appreciation Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Ensure clear vision in any weather and save $8 on a pair of Rain-X Latitude wiper blades at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
You think Noah had it rough managing all those beasts? At least he had an ark, but some of them might hold up in your car. According to Pennzoil's survey of 16,000 auto technicians, culprits for some repairs were furry, feathery, or scaly, like chickens trapped in air filters, squirrel nests in the AC, snakes wrapped around brake rotors, and rats storing dog food in exhaust pipes. But wait, don't call the Pied Piper. Have your vehicle checked out regularly by a qualified technician. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. Let's see, 8 a.m. business meeting. 3 o'clock dentist appointment, and 5:30 traffic jam. 5:30 traffic jam? Have a better way in mind to spend that time? When I come back, I'll tell you how to steer clear.
O'Reilly.
Improve visibility and save $8 on a pair of Rain-X Latitude wiper blades. Plus, earn double points during Old Rewards Member Appreciation Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Ensure clear vision in any weather and save $8 on a pair of Rain-X Latitude wiper blades at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
To foretell traffic jams, you could use tea leaves, fortune tellers, crystal balls, or technology. Engineers from Siemens Automotive in Michigan have designed a state-of-the-art traveler information system called Quick Scout. This electronic genie uses cellular communications to access real-time information about traffic conditions along specific routes. The system also provides internet access so your passengers can check stocks or send emails en route. Thanks to American ingenuity, now there's a better use for your tea leaves and your time. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with another Car Clinic Minute. Finally, vacation, and you're beach bound. But if that whining isn't coming from kids in the back seat, your holiday may be spent short of the shore. When I come back, I'll tell you why.
O'Reilly.
Improve visibility and save $8 on a pair of Brain X Latitude wiper blades. Plus, earn double points during Old Rewards Member Appreciation Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Ensure clear vision in any weather and save $8 on a pair of Brain X Latitude wiper blades at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Nobody likes whining, but coming from your power steering, it's more than a source of irritation. It could derail your vacation. Here's why. To guide wheels, power steering uses hydraulic pressure, created by fluid pumped into the gearbox. If fluid levels fall, air is sucked into the system. Result? Foamy power steering fluid that first whines, especially on turns, and then doesn't allow turns at all. So to ensure your last resort is one with palm trees, not repair bays, maintain power steering fluid levels. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. Red crosses, pink ribbons, and monogrammed belt buckles. Things you wear that say something about you. But I know one that shouts smart, financially savvy, and life-loving. When we come back, I'll get out the megaphone.
O'Reilly.
Improve visibility and save $8 on a pair of Brain X Latitude wiper blades. Plus, earn double points during Old Rewards Member Appreciation Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Ensure clear vision in any weather and save $8 on a pair of Brain X Latitude wiper blades at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Fashion designers say belts are back. But this belt's so stylish, you'll wear it all during your 4th of July vacation. Yes, wearing a seat belt tells everyone you're smart. Avoid ticketing because law enforcement's definitely watching. Financially savvy. Increasing belt usage to 90% will save taxpayers, that's you, $8.8 billion annually, and life-loving. That's a no-brainer. Buckling up saves lives. So celebrate your independence. Arrive alive this holiday and in style by buckling up. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And good morning, folks. Welcome to this edition of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I was thinking before the show opened what I would open and how I would open. So I thought about, well, I'll share with you all a few of the cases that we had this week. And for those of you who are not familiar, I can't believe there are people out there not familiar with Bobby Likis Car Clinic. But if there are, for those of you, we operate Bobby Likis Car Clinic service pre-repair in Pensacola, Florida on Davis Highway, and have for some 47 years. We started that business, and here on Bobby Likis Car Clinic Network, I've been privileged to host this program for the past 27 years. So we have a lot of experience. We've been there, done that. We've made our share of mistakes, and we've really fixed our share of automobiles too. So I'm going to open up the show this morning with oil change intervals. Which is best, annual, 6 month, 5,000 miles or so, or when the vehicle tells you? So let's think about that, and Hannah will take your calls at 888 Car Clinic. That's 888-227-2546 when I come back after the break, and we'll talk about when's best to change your oil. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part by Agm Batteries. Featuring 99.99% pure lead, the optimal batteries will last up to 3 times longer than traditional flooded batteries. Optimal Batteries, the ultimate power source. Learn more at OptimaBatteries.com. Learn more about your car right here when I come back. Don't touch that dial. This car repair spotlight is brought to you by Reilly Auto Parts. At our car clinic service shop, our customers depend on our team to solve their car repair problems. They also bring their vehicles to us for routine maintenance services that, with newer cars, sustain their factory warranties. So whether our job is replacing a leaking radiator, installing new brakes, or performing a simple wheel alignment, the parts we use must meet OEM specs. That's why our first call for parts is O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts employees are professionals. They know car parts, and they understand our service team's got to have the right part first time, every time. If you're a car owner, you want your car fixed right with quality parts and by service professionals. Trained technicians using the latest technologies, installing parts that fit. O'Reilly Auto Parts for sure. Whatever you drive, find a shop you like, have them inspect your vehicle twice a year, and ask for O'Reilly Auto Parts. This car repair spotlight is brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Time for another edition of Cooling System Q&A brought to you by Motorrad, your first choice for vehicle thermostats and caps. Today's question, what role does the radiator pressure cap play? The pressure cap regulates internal pressure in the system using 2 valves, a presser and a depressor. The pressure cap controls the release of hot coolant into the recovery tank as the coolant expands from the heat, all the while maintaining pressure that is critical to preventing overheating. Turn the engine off, the antifreeze cools down, causing a vacuum in the system as the internal pressure decreases. This decrease in pressure could cause hoses to collapse and coolant levels to be incorrect. This expansion and contraction of coolant in and out of the recovery tank helps to maintain proper coolant levels. This is why it's critical to regularly inspect and replace when necessary your radiator pressure cap. Motorrad offers the best coverage of thermostats and pressure caps in the world for virtually any vehicle, leading the way in coverage and service. For more, go to motorradusa.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Reilly Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, it starts my morning. Happy morning, your name is Folgers Mountain Grow. Now you're here, your aroma helps me wake, and the day is mine to take. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And thank you for tuning in to Bobby Likis Car Clinic this morning. Every Saturday, that's right, today is Saturday, every Saturday from 10 till noon Eastern time. And in the broadcast world, there's only one time zone. And you ask anyone in New York, and they'll tell you it's Eastern time, the broadcast capital of the world. And let's see, well, Detroit calls itself the Motor City. Daytona Beach calls itself the speed capital of the world, or I'm not quite sure, but that's what I call them. The Daytona International Speedway is unbelievable. And I was thinking of Indianapolis when I think of Daytona, because the two top races I think that we are all familiar with. Of course, the Indianapolis 500 is just an institution in and of itself, but so is the Daytona 500. So when you think about Daytona, I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's a little small, kind of a quiet city until all the tourists come in. Funny thing about that, I asked one of the callers from Daytona Beach one morning. I said, I thought it was a good question. I said, tell me something. What do the locals think about when all the bikers come down? Because they have 500,000 bikers. I mean, think about that. I mean, I can be on the road and see I don't know what you call them. What would you call would it be a pack of bikers, or a horde of bikers, or a group? You can tell I'm not a biker. Anyway, you see this group of bikers, and they're 5 or 10 or 15. What about 500,000? That's got to be intimidating. So I asked this gentleman from, it was either Daytona or Ormond Beach, or somewhere in that local area there, on our affiliate WNDB 1150 News Talk there in Daytona. And I said, what do the locals think? And folks, that was a loaded question, because I thought, he was going to come back and say, yeah, well, let me tell you. And what I heard was an education to me. And speaking of education, that's what I'm here for, to educate you about your automobile. But back to my story, then I'll move on to something else. He said, we appreciate the fact that we have all these tourists that come in and eat and enjoy our area and bring excitement to our city. And I really thought about that. And so when you think about, let's move to another arena, the Super Bowl. I mean, when the Super Bowl is held in like New Orleans at the Superdome, that's a big deal. Well, of course, anywhere it's held is a big deal. But when you think about the monies that come in, and years ago, one of my good friends who is deceased, we lost him earlier this year. When Fred told me, he said, Bobby, he said, in Pensacola and the beaches here, which we have the most gorgeous beach, and Pensacola and Destin, I think, in the world, at least in the world that I've seen, that money is what's called clean money. And for those of you who operate or in city government or city management in other cities across the nation that are listening and tuned in to Car Clinic this morning, and I give an example, in Kearney, Nebraska, they have that Nebraska Central Car Club annual week where they have the 600 cars, and it's 31 years, I think it was this year. Brad Kernick and Jerry Erickson were reporting to me a couple of months ago when we talked on air. That's clean money. What does that mean? Well, you don't have to educate these folks. You don't have to. So they spend money for food and drink and local hotels, the bed tax, all of those little pennies here and there add up to millions of dollars that are created and donated, and not donated, but deposited into the local coffers because people come from out of town. So if you're tuned in right now and you're in city government, or you're in a charitable organization and you're having some great event, call and we'll talk about it. And even if it doesn't bring people to your town, it's still, your message on air would still sort of help others to understand the benefit of what goes on there. And then today also, I learned just a couple of days ago that right here at Pensacola Beach, we're going to have, today is a Corvette car show at the casino at the Pensacola Beach, and which I may or may not go. But the bottom line is that's really great. Why is it great? Well, because almost invariably, or none that I know of don't do this, but almost every car show you've ever gone to has raised money for local charities. So that's really, really cool. Anyway, let's go back to my first thought when I opened the broadcast this morning, oil change intervals. So which is best? So do you go by the car? And when I say go by the car, does the car tell you, like a low tire? Now, TPMS, tire pressure monitoring systems, may well be, I think that TPMS is the best technological breakthrough for consumers, and we're all consumers now, that you could put on an automobile. It's the best, I start to say option, but it's not an option any longer. But what that does is whenever you have a low tire, you're warned of the low tire, and that otherwise you would not know. And I say this because my left rear tire Thursday, now the day's Saturday, my left rear tire Thursday on the way to the office said it was low. So I pulled in and into the drive of my own shop and asked Johnny Bars to top off my left rear tire, and so he did, and he did a cursory look, although we had a lot of cars and he couldn't really move the car, so we didn't jack the car up and rotate the tire to look for any leakage. I just aired it up, and it occasionally a tire, will leak, but so we did that. So I left and then came to work yesterday, and sure enough, the left rear tire was on. So about 5 p.m. yesterday evening, Miss Jan, who is, as you know, usually answered the phone for years here, she, of course, is our comptroller and office manager on the service side. She walked out and she said, well, hey, Rusty, Bobby's car's got a flat tire. And it was in the stall with the left rear tire flat. And sure enough, it had a nail in it about 2.5 inches long, did not hurt the tire. And we did plug the tire, and there's a proper way to plug tires, and then there's a simpler way. The simpler way is to put a plug in it. The best method, and this depends on how large the nail is or the injury is and where the injury is in the tire. What we do is we'll take the tire and break it off the rim, break it down on the rim on one side so you can get to the inside, and then clean the inside and put the, like a mushroom, just think of a round rubber disc, maybe 1.5 inches in diameter, that has a mushroom stem that is attached to it, so it looks like an umbrella. So what you do is, and the bottom of the mushrooms, and this is inside a tire, the mushroom is metal, and that metal is attached to the rubber part. So you go to the inside, you clean it, you push the metal through the hole in the tire from the inside, and then you pull it from the outside, and it pops the rubber through, and you cut off the rubber once you've done that. And it's glued and those sorts of things. What that gives you is it gives you like a patch from the inside, and the air pressure on the inside is actually forcing that patch against the wall of the tire or the underside of the tread. Now, if the hole is in the sidewall of a tire that is near the outer bead, you should not patch that tire. That tire should be replaced. Anyway, so what's the best? Let me share you my number because I'd like your input on this as well. What's the best time to change your oil? When is the best time to change your oil? 888 Car Clinic. Hannah will take your call at 888-227-2546. So is an annual oil change, well, let's say 5,000 miles. Years ago it was 3,000 miles, and we all would fudge and maybe go to 3, 4, 5. Some people would go to 10,000 miles. It doesn't matter. So 3 to 5,000 miles. Well, in today's cars, not because the oil is any better. I mean, oil has always been really good. When I say always, in our lifetimes, oil has been the additives and the additive packages, and there are different additive packages. But refined crude oil lubricates and cools the engine and does 5 different jobs. But it's the owners that don't change it. And then it's also, when your engine overheats, you damage the oil. So you say, well, it's only been 2,000 miles, or so, and then the engine maybe loses a water pump and it overheats, or a thermostat sticks, or whatever. And that you drive it until you take it into a service shop and you repair and make that repair bill, but you never change the oil. And that's a no-no because the oil is damaged by the high heat. And also, so how about a 6 month if you don't drive 5,000 miles a year? When I come back, I'll pick up and I'll take your call to 888 Car Clinic. We recently sat down with Johnson Controls Global Brand Manager Joe Meyer to discuss the advantages of Agm batteries. Joe touched on why many of today's vehicles are better suited for this technology. Let's hear from Joe.
Attributes that make your vehicle a good candidate for an Agm battery really depend on the electrical demands that are placed on the battery within your vehicle, as well as potentially the vehicle application, such as start-stop. Most vehicles manufactured in recent years actually contain more than 150 electrical accessories, including backup cameras, navigation systems, heated seats, even power windows, which are part of our everyday lives. Our Agm batteries are manufactured to meet these electrical demands. Additionally, if you have something in your car such as start-stop technology, you need an Agm battery to help ensure you are effectively powering your vehicle during this stop event.
Johnson Controls is the world's largest producer of automotive Agm batteries, which are precision engineered to meet the electrical demands we put on today's vehicles. Learn more at autobatteries.com. A 2000 Chrysler Concorde with a 2.7 V6 recently came into the shop. The owner was having issues with low oil pressure and a warning light. After testing and inspection, we found sludge in the engine. The owner was partly to blame as he had not changed the oil off it enough. But sludge buildup is a common problem in this engine. Do you overhaul this old engine in this old car? Well, maybe, but Berryman Engine Oil Flush may help. Berryman Engine Oil Flush quickly and safely removes harmful sludge and other deposits in the crankcase of all gasoline and diesel engines without using aggressive solvents. Berryman frees sticky valves and lifters for quieter operation, opens restricted oil passages that improve overall oil circulation. Berryman's Engine Oil Flush is compatible with all single-grade and multi-grade conventional and synthetic gasoline and diesel engine oils. Drive to BerrymanProducts.com for more information and to check out Berryman Engine Oil Flush. That's BerrymanProducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hun, guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
I'm 98.
Higher.
Higher at 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100?
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, and welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We're talking about
sort of a simple subject, but not so simple when you know all the facts, and that's oil change intervals. And a few months ago, I mentioned, well, before I share that with you, I want to first set the precedent here, at least help you to better understand why this is important and why you should listen carefully. So when do you change your oil? Invariably, when I ask folks that call in, has this been a good car? The answer that I have always, and you know, it's really strange to use the word always, but the answer, without exception, has this been a good car for you? And normally, folks will call in and they say, Bobby, I've got a 2005 so-and-so with 186,000 miles, and it's in the service shop, and they want $2,000 to repair A, B, and C, and what have you. And is the car worth it? And that's a decision that you have to make. But invariably that affects everyone. I mean, if you got a brand new car and it needs a set of tires, you're going to spend the $1,200-$1,500 or whatever the tires cost, because that's normal procedure. But when you drive a car, folks, you drive the new off the car. So as the car gets older, you're driving the new off. At one point in time, you have to replace the new that you've driven off. It's that simple. It really is that simple. So you have to decide, well, is this worth spending the money? So people, you will call me and I'll ask, has this been a good car? And this should be an eye-opener to many of you. The answer is always, well, yes. Now understand, this car is in a shop, needs $2,000 or $3,000 worth of work. It's got 180,000 miles on it, or it's 10 years old or whatever. And has it been a good car? The answer I receive is, oh, yes, Bobby, this car's been great. I changed the oil and filter, do the maintenance on it, which is only the change in the oil and filter. And this car is really great. I've never had it in a shop. And then there's this big silence. And it is a trick question. So I never shared this on air because it's a trick question. And actually, it's not so much a trick question as it's an eye-opener. So when you have 180,000 miles on your car that you've never had in the shop, it's about time you had it in the shop. So don't be surprised that you're going to spend $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 to bring that car back to some kind of a roadworthy condition. And that's where I can help you, because you know that car, because you've been driving that car that 150 or 80,000 miles. And so if it has a transmission that goes out, is it worth spending the money? Well, that depends. If you spend X amount of dollars on the transmission, let's just say it's going to take $3,500 to put a used transmission in the vehicle with a guarantee, okay? Or a year's guarantee, which is the way we like to go. Is it worth that? Well, the answer is it depends on whether or not you know the condition of the car overall. And you can consider what you're doing is you're buying your car back. And that's how we have come to approach that question, because we can't tell you to spend that money. We just present what we find and what the car tells us and give you the bad news of the cost analysis, and then you have to make the decision. But when you think about, let's say that you're going to spend $5,000, well, let's say $4,000. So you've got a car that's worth $2,500 or $3,000 on the market, and it's going to take $4,000. But that $4,000 will bring that car back to you for a couple of years, and you can amortize that $4,000 over 2 years. And you know the rest of the car has been in decent and usable and roadworthy condition because you've been driving the car. So here's a comparison. Do you spend that $4,000 to buy your car back to health? Or do you go out and buy a used car for $5,000, and then that used car 2 weeks later or 2 months later bites you, and you have to spend $4,000 on the car that you just paid for because you bought a used car? You didn't buy your car back. You see the point? And it has helped my team and me, and more importantly, our customers, to make wiser decisions. Because the worst decision in the world, the old 20/20 is hindsight, is true. It really is. So you never really know until after you, buy like a new car. That's why they give you, some buyer's remorse. You got this buyer's remorse. Did I do the right thing here? So when you buy a product, whether it's an automobile, which is what we're talking about here, or whether it's a couch, does it really fit? How do you know? You don't know till you get it in your living room. I mean, you really don't. You have an idea. So I said all that to say that those are decisions I can help you make based on other considerations for the automobile. So let's get back then to the oil change. If you only drive 4,000 miles a year, do you change the oil every 6 months? Or do you just wait and change it annually? Well, you can certainly wait and change it annually, but you shouldn't. Why? Because oil changes are not the only maintenance item on an automobile. Inspections, in fact, we don't even do oil changes. Well, sure we do. We do, but we perform a vehicle inspection, that happens to include the oil and filter change, which is part of it, but that's not the main reason that the car, it may be the main reason that drove you into the shop because it's time or it's miles or it's past, but it's not the main function and procedure that we do. We inspect the vehicle. So if you only drive 4,000 to 5,000 miles a year and your engine is perfectly okay at 5,000 mile or 7,000 mile oil changes, should you wait a year to do that? Well, the answer is no, because every 6 months at least, twice a year at least, your car should go into an automotive service shop with ASE master trained technicians for them and their eyes to inspect the vehicle, because if you wait a year and you drive the car a year, whatever little item that is starting has more time to develop into a serious breakdown. So So let's change the mindset. Don't think about changing your oil. Say, it's time for inspection. It's time for an inspection. And so you take your car in, and I want someone out there just to try this. If your vehicle is ready, quote, for the oil change, and you know it, take it into a service shop. Even if it's a fast in and fast out, which I don't endorse, but unless you've got to take a trip, an emergency trip, and you got to have new oil and filter, that's okay. But really, you need an ASC master trained technicians, and the pay scale doesn't allow it at fast in, fast out. So that's a given. Just FYI. So, I mean, master automotive technicians do not work at fast in, fast out oil change because the financial rewards are not there, and it can't be made there. So that's a fact, and let's get that on the table too. So this is a lesson in economics and automotive service shop, but that's okay. I'm here to we're transparent here. So the bottom line is, you take your car in for an inspection. So the next time you need an oil change, you take it into your service shop and say, Bob or John or Fabio or Jonathan or Rusty or Brennan, it's time for a vehicle inspection on my car. And look at the look that you will receive from the person at the service desk, whether it's a he or a she or a Mary or a Jerry or whomever, and look at the look at time for inspection. And they're going to, the first thing out of their mouth, before you say, and also while it's here, would change the oil and filter. Try that. Then the first thing out of there, besides their wide open eyes, their mouth is, what kind of problem do you have? Well, I didn't come here for a problem. What? Really? Really? You didn't come here for a problem? Well, why did you come in? Well, it's time for an inspection. They're going to ask you, how did you know that? And then what's going to happen is, you're going to be the talk of the shop, because you'll be the only person that day that brought his or her car into a service shop and asked for someone to look it over. Try it. Try it. Okay, let's move on. A few months ago, I mentioned GM's oil life percentage monitoring system, and I've had numerous emails and calls asking to hear that information again. And although this information pertains specifically to GM cars, there's little doubt in my mind that it also applies to almost every brand of automobile on the road. Anyway, let's say you drive a 2013 or later model GM car. It's important that you know about the oil life monitoring reading. So starting in 2013 and going forward, all GM vehicles were programmed for the oil percentage light value to drop to 0 when the vehicle reaches 7,500 miles, regardless of time. Now think about that. What this means for you is, say you're taking a road trip this week and you saw that your 2013 Malibu still had 45% life in the oil percentage. Well, you're only going, maybe 300-400 miles. You got 45% life. So you say, I'm no worries. And it has 7,300 miles since the last oil service. You drive 200 miles. Now you're at 7,500. All of a sudden, the 45% oil life percentage goes to 0. Now here's the bottom line. GM recommends no more than 7,500 mile oil change intervals. And I'll bet you there's not a handful of people that tuned in that know that, including technicians. What am I saying? If you drive a 2013 or model year or later, early or younger GM car, the oil change interval, according to GM, is 7,500 miles. I don't care who tells you differently. And how do I know that? Because all of the algorithms and all of the programs that GM designed to help you monitor the lifeblood of that car, being the oil, all that goes out the door at 7,500 miles. Because if you drove easy and around town and maybe on the highway and your oil change you could potentially go 9,000, 10, 20,000 miles and still have a percentage of, 22,000 is when, historically, when this first came out. When I say this, when this function first came out in the early 2000s on GM cars, so you could go from 9 to 22,000 miles. I know this because I have talked with Tony Gain at the John Hall group of dealerships in Daytona Beach, Florida. When this first happened, he said, "Bobby, this is really a bummer." I said, "Well, for what reason? Help me to understand." I wanted to hear, because he's educated in automotive service from the ground up. And he said, well, what it means is that if the light doesn't come on until 9 or 22,000 miles, the owners miss the 5,000 mile tire rotation. And you can't unring that bell. When I come back, I'll tell you the rest of the story and take your calls at 888 Car Clinic. We recently sat down with Johnson Controls Global Brand Manager Joe Meyer to discuss the advantages of Agm batteries. Joe talked about the many different factors that can affect battery performance. Also touched on what differentiates Johnson Controls Agm batteries from other manufacturers. Let's hear from Joe.
There are a variety of factors that influence the performance of a battery, including your driving style, driving environment, and distance, as well as climate. Basic habits that we may not think about actually have a substantial impact on your battery. So, for example, making frequent stops while running errands, driving in rush hour traffic, additionally driving on rough roads, or even driving aggressively with fast accelerations and hard braking, those all put wear on your battery. With its compressed cell design and glass mat separators, our Agm battery is precision engineered with a more robust design to excel in these conditions.
Agm batteries help meet the electrical demands put on today's vehicles, and Johnson Controls is the world's largest producer of automotive Agm batteries. Learn more at autobatteries.com. That's autobatteries.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but mornings knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I've got. An opportunity to start out smiling and happy. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes. Folks, with all my years in automotive service and repair, and hosting Bobby Likis Car Clinic answering your car questions, I know a thing or two about cars. But there's one item that I need help with: tires. Which brand offers the best fitting tire? What about sizing up? Which rubber compound best fits my need? The choices are endless. So I decided to try Goodyear.com. I browsed the Goodyear site and found information. I saw 4 categories: all season, all terrain, winter tires, and sport performance tires. I chose 2 options: all season and sport. Then, right there on Goodyear's site, I compared both types to determine which one best suited my daily driving needs. And so when you're searching for your next set of tires, check out Goodyear.com. It's easy. Just click the Tires tab and then browse. That's Goodyear.com.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thanks for tuning in today. So in closing with the oil change interval educational series here, just to know that every 6 months your car's due for an inspection. And of course, our inspections are over the top because we use a digital vehicle inspection system. Every technician has an iPad that takes pictures, and a picture's worth 1,000 words. So every time we see a minor leak or a tread wear or a shock or anything, even a scratch that you might not have known was on your car, we take a shot of it, and it automatically, wirelessly goes to the service desk from the technician's bay. And it goes right directly to your records. It's a fantastic investment that we made that allows us to do a better job than we did before we had it. And so with regard to oil changes, forget the oil changes. Just take your car in for an inspection every 6 months. And by the way, while it's there, get some fresh oil and filter. Does that make sense? It really does. Take a call from Stan. Stan, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Good morning, Stan.
Well, good morning, sir. Thank you so much for what you do. Let me tell you, you've become a good kind of habit for me on Saturday mornings. What I do is I think, Bobby's coming on. What have I been doing in my garage and on my cars that needs to be done that I've been putting off? Like measuring the voltage in the coolant system. See if my coolant's getting tired. And but I wanted to tell you, we're talking about oil, and I know how much you like to spin yarns and stuff. I'll give you a short version of a fun yarn.
Sure.
My first car was a 1950 Studebaker Land Cruiser.
Wow!
I don't know if you even remember them.
I do.
But it was sitting on the parking lot, kind of across the street from this boarding house where I was living in as a college co-op, and said $50. This was 1959. And I went out and drove it, and it was V8 that became a 6 because it had 2 bad cam lobes. And I said, well, I've known people who've changed cams in their cars. I can change the cam out. So I bought it. And I drove it for quite a while. Only problem was that when I put my foot on the throttle, it went bang, 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 bang. And if I didn't give it full throttle, it smoothly went down the road as a 6.
I got it.
So I was trying to save money, as you may imagine. So I was buying oil called Re-Refined. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
I bought about 2 gallons for, I don't think they do that anymore, just like recap tires. But and it loved oil. One day, my father-in-law gave me a 2-gallon can of Degreaser, and I put it in the trunk, and I decided, well, before I take off, I'm going to top off the oil. Oh, I got the wrong 2-gallon can. So I put a couple of quarts of Degreaser in the crankcase.
Oh, my gosh.
And about 50 miles later, I started getting a rod knock like you would not believe, and I had to make it back to work. So we went another 150 miles with it clattering and me trying to, and it made it and I discovered a guy who, believe it or not, did crankshaft grinding on the car.
Yeah,
And
that's an old. That would never happen today, Stan. But I've actually seen one of those in my lifetime. I've seen a person doing that in an operation in my lifetime, and that's anyway. But more calls. So let me finish your story there. And this is unbelievable.
Well, I just wanted to tell you that that I have had interesting experiences. I don't think that re-refined oil is anything but filtered. Maybe they threw some additives in it, but it only cost a couple of dollars. and I really endorse what you're saying, that I am rigorous about oil changes and inspection. And one of the things as a racer, I always did all my undercar work myself, because on the way to adjusting right, I would examine bushings. I would examine all the other stuff. And I realized when I asked somebody else to do that they weren't looking like I was looking, because I'd seen these things wear before.
Right. Well,
have a great day.
Thank you, Stan. As always, thank you for the follow-up and for that great story. And years ago, I had a 50 model Mercury that also used oil, and I drove it from Birmingham, Alabama to Chicago, Illinois, but it wouldn't start, so I never shut it off. But it used oil. So this is a true story, and I drove it all the way without shutting the car off. Well, I couldn't check the oil, but it used oil.
Right.
So I guessed at how much oil to put in the motor, and I was driving through Kentucky, and going too fast. I was going faster than the traffic, which no doubt that's another story. And I let off the accelerator, and then because I saw this police car in Kentucky.
Okay.
And then I stepped back on the gas when I thought I was safely by these folks and by these, the squad car. And about 2 miles down the road, they pulled me over and gave me a ticket for speeding. And I don't know that I was speeding at the time, but he said, "We know you were speeding because when you saw the car, you let off the accelerator." And I thought to myself, well, how did you know? Because when you step back on it, it sucked the oil, and it puffed the smoke.
Wow.
So they took me to the county seat, and the magistrate asked me where I was going, and I told him I was going to Chicago, Illinois, and he asked me how much money I had and I told him, and he set, and this is a true story, and he set the bill so that I would have an X dollars left, and he asked me how much fuel I had in the car. And I told him, and he let me go from Kentucky on to Chicago, Illinois with whatever it was, $8 or $10 or $12, which was enough gas. And when I arrived in Chicago, Illinois, I had 50 cents in my pocket, and a quarter of a tank of gas, and that's how I arrived in Chicago, and so that's a true story. But that's another
magistrate.
Magistrate. Yeah.
Have a great day, sir.
Yes, well, thank you. Old stories. Let's go to Australia and talk with Frank. Frank, good morning to you, or good evening to you, or early morning. Yeah, early morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. How about yourself?
Thanks. I just want to contribute to that conversation about the oil changes.
Yes.
Over here, it's renowned that if you go into a workshop, people try and upsell all the time. Like fraudulently, like, oh, you need a carbon clean, throttle body clean, or a remuffler or something. That's the biggest fee for a customer here. So I don't know if that's hurdle over there, but that's why people try and bring it once a year here, like a car into the workshop. So you bring it in every 6 months, you get the same story twice a year. Oh, you need a throttle body. You know what I mean? I wonder what your opinion on that is.
Well, to be quite frank, I cannot. You're breaking up with your phone, and so if you would just restate the question, because I want to be able to address it, Frank. I really appreciate you calling, folks. It's like 2:00 in the morning there where he is. So Frank, ask that question one more time because I didn't quite understand.
Well, it's not a question; it's not a statement. Like that, we have like the intervals here, and every time you bring a car in, they have a very big upsell quota here. Like, try and see your throttle body clean. Try and see a carbon clean, like bushes that don't need replacing. So, like, That's sort of things that happen here a lot. Like, people get scared of going into workshops now.
So what your question has to do is about every 6 months there's a carbon cleaning process that's performed. Is that what you're saying?
But I'm saying, like, that people try and upsell a lot here. And like, my friends say, like, I'm not going to bring my car in every 6 months because they try and upsell and try and scare you into spending money. Like, that's not necessary. You know?
Oh. Well, so you're talking about upsells.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Well, here's it's a great question. So folks, let me and Frank, that is now you've really touched on a very personal. The reason that I, for the first 35 years in my automotive profession career, of which is 47 years now, we never even offered oil and filter changes because I couldn't open the hood for $19.95 and change the oil and filter and pay a technician to change the oil and filter and inspect the vehicle. So what that meant was, if I couldn't do it, and yet I advertised that I could change the oil and filter for $19.95, which our industry still does today, and it really bothers me, they must upsell because they must, Now the good news is you can always find something wrong with a used car. The bad news is if you're in a position that you must find something wrong to make the numbers or to make payroll or to pay the rent, then that's a disservice to your company and your methodology. And I abhor our industry's insistence of, come in and we're going to change your oil for $19.95 or $15.95 or $22.95. So
that's the mentality.
For that,
that's the mentality of
that's the mentality of our industry, and of which I've never been a part and never been a partner. Now, having said that, that's why I'm so adamant about inspections, because when we have cars that come in, we provide a digital inspection. Oh, and by the way, it happens to include the oil change. And here's another thing, Frank, and this is an initiative that we actually started this year that has worked so very well. And I'll tell you how well it's worked. Here's what we do for these particular new customers. We do give them a digital inspection, pictures, report, the whole 9 yards. It looks like a blood work, like a blood count work. It's a whole page or 2 or 3 pages for zero, and listen to this, Frank, for zero money and zero upsell. And they pay a minimum price for the oil and filter. Why do we do that? It's called customer acquisition. And I will tell you, we have, and I want, even if you're out in the business there, go to carclinicservice.com and see how many 5-star reviews. We've actually gotten more than 77 5-star reviews since January of this year. And in the history of my 47 years, I've never seen anything like it. And here's how we do it. It's called paying it forward. And I had a clear understanding, because it wasn't my idea to do this. It was my management idea. I had a clear understanding, no upsell. What? Right. And so we do that. And I will tell you, it's an experience like I've never enjoyed in the history of my 47 years. And people come in, and we had, and I know that Mike is on the horn. We're going to go there in just a minute and online if we have time. The bottom line is this. The other day, and I say the other day, a month ago, a young lady was sitting in, and Brennan, we inspected her car, took the pictures or what have you. He walks into the customer lounge to share with her what have you, and she looked at him, and before he opened his mouth, she said, "Oh, okay, here it comes. Here's the upsell." And he looked at her, he says, "No, not at all. I'm not here to upsell. I'm here to show you what we found on the car. This is just for your information. There's no upsell. This is information so you can make your own decision to do what you want to do." And you should go online, folks, at Car Clinic Service. And if you're in the business, you should go to carclinicservice.com and read some of those. If I were to dream up these fantastic words that our customers are saying about my team, I couldn't do as good a job. And it's because we promised, and well, it was an edict from yours truly, no upsells. And that's about as transparent as you could get in the automotive service and repair industry. And I'll challenge anyone that's in the business listening to match what we're doing, or to even show me where you've ever done it. And what does it mean? It means that in my mind, because we're 47 years and because we've lost customers and because customer acquisition is a given in any business, whether it's a restaurant or a service shop or a clothing store or whatever, we decided that we were going to do this. And I said, okay, you can run this special. And I hate to use the word special. It's the only special we've ever run in the history of our 47 years. You can do this so long as you don't upsell anyone, because I don't want anyone attaching a deal with upsell, because in our industry, that's the whole premise. Get them in the door. Get them in the door. Get them in the door. And you know what, Frank? I disagree with that 100%. So you capture what the car tells you. Being a technician, you share that with the owner, you give them a written report with pictures, and then they leave and they get home and they share this information with their family, and then they make the decision, and then if they want to come back in and you've treated them right, you made a new customer, and it is working. It's the only thing that I've ever felt so powerful about in my life and so relieved. Frank, we're out of time. Thank you so much for calling and sharing that bit of information about upsell there in Australia. Yeah, it happens everywhere in the world because our industry doesn't know how to frankly talk to a car owner. Thank you so much, Frank.
Thank you.
And folks, with that, I'll come to a close finally. And I will tell you, I was going to share with you about a Volvo and a Land Rover and a Smart and an F-150 repair, but I'll do that the next hour. All right, another great hour. And I see that Mike is in the horn. Stay with us. Take a break. I'll see you at the top of the hour. Likis, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Berryman's B12 Chem Tool features HEST, or high energy solvent technology, which helps maximize one-tank cleanup of intake valves, injectors, carburetors, and combustion chambers. But don't take our word for it. Jason's 06 Mitsubishi Lancer had an off-the-line low RPM detonation problem. According to Jason, one bottle of Berryman B12 Chem Tool and 25 miles, wow, the detonation was completely gone and he could feel the difference. Learn more about Berryman products and their HEST technology at berrymanproducts.com.
This message is for all of you sitting in the passenger seat. And apologies if it gets a little uncomfortable, but how does it feel to be at the mercy of someone who thinks a random text is more important than your life? Someone who takes their eyes off the road while speeding along in a 3-ton hunk of steel. Freaky, right? Well, why not just ask them to stop? Or better yet, volunteer to text for them. It might be a little awkward, but believe me, you'll live.
Learn more at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
If you're familiar with the Kulsiford section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the Kulsiford section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases, the very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with, and by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, it sounds less like a car and more like a Bluck sedan with sniffed like new grip condition lemals. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, both parties can be covered by eBay's Vehicle Protection Program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's abbreviating. eBay Motors, a better way to sell your car.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
Hi, folks. Welcome in to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you tune in this hour. Every Saturday from 10 till noon Eastern Time, we broadcast on our radio affiliates, AM and FM, across the nation. Also, you can tune in from anywhere, any computer, Wi-Fi, otherwise at watchbobbylive.com, watchbobbylive.com. And you know, I rarely, I just have gotten out of the habit, but Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and Pinterest, our team also spends a lot of time in those arenas and those platforms to share information about you. One of the, and I just forget to tell you, but in our Pinterest, in pinterest.com/Bobby Likis, that's Likis, if you go to In the Shop board, we post surgeries in real time. What that means is open hood surgeries in real time and have pictures of before and after. And I'm a huge fan of picture taking. And invariably, one of my techs will have a job that opens up into a really bad situation, and then we fix it, and then we have I said, oh, I wish I'd had a before and after. So, and if you're in the shop business, a picture is worth 1,000 words. I got a break coming up. When I come back, your call to 888 Car Clinic. Berryman Products is celebrating their 100th anniversary, providing innovative products to the automotive aftermarket, like Berryman Chem Dip Carburetor Parts Cleaner that helps remove gum, varnish, fuel residue, and other harmful deposits from carburetor parts and throttle bodies without heat, aeration, or agitation. Berryman Chem Dip Carburetor Parts Cleaner is safe to use with most plastic and metal carburetor and throttle body parts, including steel and aluminum alloys. Learn more at berrymanproducts.com.
What 100-year-old automotive company makes dozens of products to extend your vehicle's life and improve its performance?
Let me see.
Which company uses high-energy solvent technology, or HEST?
It's on the tip of my tongue.
What company introduced B12 Chem Tool over 40 years ago? Still the best fuel system cleaner on the market?
Oh, don't tell me it's
Berryman Automotive Products. Correct. Berryman Automotive Products has lubricants, cleaners, solvents, hundreds of solutions, and every product all American-made since 1918. You'll find Berryman Automotive Products at AutoZone, Pep Boys, and Walmart. Now, why would you buy anything else?
You sure ask a lot of questions.
We recently had an 03 Jeep Liberty in the shop with almost 90,000 miles. The vehicle was used primarily for short trips and losing coolant over a quarter week. With no external leaks, we knew it was an internal loss. Could have been a blown head gasket, as this is a common failure, or worse, could have been an internal crack. So here were the options. Tear the engine down and try to repair it, or find a less expensive alternative, like K-Seal. As you can probably imagine, the vehicle owner chose K-Seal, and it worked. Following directions on the can, we shook the container to mix the contents completely, added K-Seal to the radiator, making sure the vehicle was cool, and then had the owner resume normal everyday driving. We checked the vehicle 1 month later, and no coolant loss was found. What could have been a costly repair was instead a modest labor charge plus a bottle of K-Seal. Learn more about K-Seal at kseal.com. Don't just seal it, K-Seal it.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
Car dealers like playing games. They play percentage points, they play markups, but I don't like playing with my money. So I got my auto loan through LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form, a marketplace of banks and lenders competed over it, and I got 4 offers back within hours. After all, the car buying game is a lot easier to win when you're holding all the cards.
LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at lendingtree.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started with this hour. First, gas prices, and then we're going to take calls. Already 3 in the queue. Best to get in early, please. 888-227-2546. That's 888-227-2546. Gas prices, $2.82 national average of regular grade gasoline. That price is higher than it was same time last year, and in 3 of the regions of the 10 regions across the United States, in 3 of those regions it's less than it was same time last week, but in 7 of those regions the price is higher at $2.82. Now in California, or on the West Coast, not including California, it's $3.12, and in California, $3.33. Still, I guess you could call that a decent deal. I mean, deal, I hate to put a deal on it, but that's the price of gasoline. Tire pressure directly affects safety and handling and stopping and starting and turning, and MPG. So check your tires. And to that end, we talked a little bit about tire pressure monitoring systems and the fact that I had a flat tire yesterday that my team fixed at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It's just about the time, 30 minutes before I want to get out of here. Let's go to Mike and take a call from him, and who has some comments about a TPMS, which stands for Tire Pressure Monitoring System. Mike, good morning. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you in the house.
Hey, Bobby. Hey, listen, I really enjoy the service that you've done on my 08 Toyota Avalon.
Cool.
When I bought it with 58,000 miles, we did a zeroed the car out, completely flush everything on it, and I've got about 75,000 on it right now. The car is probably the best car that I've ever had. One problem that I came up with that had nothing to do with your services, I had some brand new Goodyear tires on there, and I had a tire pressure warning light come on. And then I'm anal. I did a whole bunch of studying about the thing. Right. I was going to get rid of the tires anyway, swap them out, and put some Michelins on, which I did. But in the meantime, I ended up getting some new TPS monitoring things. I studied everything online, and I got probably the best ones available. And when you go to put your tires on, just go ahead and put your TPMS on. The batteries last about 5 to 7 years.
Right.
So it's a good idea if you're going to spend the money and get you some new Michelins on your car that are going to be on there for probably 5 to 7 years. Go ahead and change out and get some warranted TPMS things. If you drive fast, you don't check your tires much, you're out on the road a lot and things like that. So, and you don't have an air compressor in your garage like I do and a digital tire gauge. So that's one of the things. The other thing is I am so proud of being able to drive this car that you have zeroed out. It's just doing a fantastic job, and I get about 31 miles a gallon at 74 miles an hour. So how do you beat that?
Well, it's hard to, and I will say this, and thank you so much for the compliment on my team. But number one, that car, the Avalon, is a great car to start with, and Toyota products. And of all the cars that people call and ask me, well, Bobby, what should I buy? I've never driven a Toyota product, but the first used car I recommend is the Toyota, because they have a great reputation, and you can repair them and what have you. So they really do make great new cars because they make great used cars, and you're driving proof of that. Yes, you're very particular about your automobile which is right up my alley. And I will tell you, I appreciate your comments, and everything that you say is right on. I would say that you spend less money overall on your car, and have you ever had a car to break down with you or to surprise you with a breakdown?
Never.
Yeah, fancy that. I wonder why that is.
Well, I had a 51 Hudson Commodore 6, a 65 Ford Interceptor Special, Police Interceptor Special, a 68 Volkswagen bus, a 71 Volkswagen bus, a Toyota Highlander. I've had a Honda Accord and a Toyota Camry. All of them, mostly, and they've never broken down.
Yeah.
I've caught some things before a trip that needed to be taken care of.
Yes.
But hey, I'm a pilot. Do I want anything to break down when I'm carrying people around that are paying for a safe ride? No way.
Yeah. Hey, you're a man after my own heart. Mike, thank you so much for your kind words and for your call and your update.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Bye. We'll take another call from Chris. And, folks, now's the time to get in, 888-227-2546. Chris, good morning. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Thanks for taking my call, Bobby.
My
I
pleasure.
listen to you all the time, and I just think you're the best. Anyway, I bought a 2017 Jeep Grand Cherokee, brand new last year.
Okay.
And I've been toying with the idea. It's got that 3.6 liter Pentastar engine on it, and I don't know. I just haven't been happy with the pickup and the performance with it. And I was toying with the idea of a cold air intake to boost the horsepower on these things. And I was just wondering, for 10 extra horsepower, I wonder if they say that's the way they put on dynameters, if the juice is worth the squeeze on those things.
In my opinion, there's a better way. There's a better way.
Oh?
And yes, and here's the bottom line. Well, first, I'd like the Jeep's predecessor engine better than what you have. It was indestructible. The old what was it? The 4.2. That engine was indestructible. Granted, it was an old-fashioned engine, but it just ran and ran and ran. I don't think I've ever seen one apart. But anyway,
I had two of those cars with those 4-liter engines in them, and yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, but given the fact that you can't unring that bell and you've got what you have, you can unleash some power from that vehicle without opening the hood, and you do that with you know that you've heard me talk about the Diablosport tuner kits, right?
Yeah.
Okay, just for your information, for anyone listening, whether you drive, and I sort of say, that's limited to Jeep, GM, Ford, and Chrysler, and of course, Dodge Rams. But Diablosport makes a tuner kit that allows you very easily to retune the architecture of the onboard engine fuel management and timing control. And that's a mouthful, just to say that when your Jeep came from the factory, it came to you, and every new Jeep comes detuned. Now you say, well, why would you get a detuned car? Detune means that the engine can produce, in other words, think of a football player and think of their fastest 0-40 time. Or a car's quarter-mile ET, and then say, okay, well, how fast can this car go? You can always go a little faster if you get more and more effort, as humans. And the vehicle is limited to emissions control mandates. So there are certain things that manufacturers, I say things, regulations, replace things, certain regulations that OEMs must abide by that dictate the reduction in power output to their cars. I know this to be a fact because I actually called and talked with an engineer at Diablosport, and I said, so explain to me, I think actually he was a guest on our show, explain to me how you can flip a switch, well, it's not flip a switch, but plug in a tuner into the OBD port and let me tune that engine, or let Chris tune his Jeep engine, when the factory could have done that. Because he said, because we don't abide by, we're not covered by the same mandates that the OEMs are. So every vehicle that's delivered, including mine, which there's no tuner for a Jag in the United States. There's one in the UK. But the bottom line, you should go to Diablosport.com and just check out what their claims are, because they are factual. I've installed these tuner kits and they work. And the reason that they work is because the manufacturer, the designer, the engineer at Diablosport does not have to abide by the same specifications and timing and fuel curves that the factory does, and yet the car still is within factory limits. But the factory is always keeping the car on the safe side. In other words, here's a good example. You change gear ratios or tires, you can adjust for it. A speed limiter or RPM limiter, you can adjust that. And their parameters are changeable in your Jeep. And Chris, before you invest in a cold air cleaner is great, but you can't get more in the engine if the engine doesn't accept it. So you got to have the timing and you got to have the fuel to go with the air. So a cold air system is great in and of itself, not going to change the power. It's not going to change the power on a car, because the power on a dyno is under wide open throttle. And you don't drive your car wide open throttle. You drive it moderately, but you want more oomph. And that's how you do it. Go to Diablosport.com. I'm glad that you called me. Got a heartbreak coming up. When I come back, we'll take Alan's call, folks. You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Likis, you're going to love it. This Engine Care Spotlight is brought to you by Walker Products, a leading manufacturer of quality fuel system components and engine management sensors. Many of today's diesel-powered vehicles are equipped with computer-controlled diesel emission systems that reduce soot and tailpipe emissions. These computers require accurate information from engine sensors. The Exhaust Gas Temperature Sensor, or EGT, relays the temperature of the diesel exhaust gases to the computer to properly control the exhaust gas after treatment system. This not only helps reduce harmful emissions, but also protects your vehicle. A faulty EGT sensor can have serious consequences. In addition to a dash warning light, you may experience a clogged diesel particulate filter, DPF, improper regeneration of the DPF, and overfueling, which can lead to failure of exhaust components or even internal engine damage. Walker Products offers OE quality sensors at aftermarket prices, and any skilled do-it-yourselfer can do the job. Learn more at walkerproducts.com. Berryman Products is celebrating their 100th anniversary, providing innovative products to the automotive aftermarket, like Berryman B33 engine degreaser. Using a biodegradable formula is an environmentally safe proprietary blend of high-performance detergents and emulsifiers that penetrates accumulated road grime, dirt, and oil. B33 engine degreaser leaves components clean with no oily residue, and the fast spray-on, rinse-off cycle saves time and conserves water. Learn more at berrymanproducts.com.
What 100-year-old automotive company makes dozens of products to extend your vehicle's life and improve its performance?
Let me see.
Which company uses high-energy solvent technology, or HEST?
It's on the tip of my tongue.
What company introduced B12 Chem Tool over 40 years ago? Still the best fuel system cleaner on the market?
Oh, don't tell me it's
Berryman Automotive Products. Correct. Berryman Automotive Products has lubricants, cleaners, solvents, hundreds of solutions, and every product all American-made since 1918. You'll find Berryman Automotive Products at AutoZone, Pep Boys, and Walmart. Now, why would you buy anything else?
You sure ask a lot of questions.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone tip.
From Geico Auto Insurance.
When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
When you purchase the latest TV, tablet, or smartphone, don't forget to do the right thing with your old ones. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old devices as easy as buying new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find recycling tips, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Don't let your old tech tools clog your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. The number to call is 888 Car Clinic. Hannah will take your call and put you in the queue, and I will be glad to address your concerns, or if you just have great story to share about your local service provider. That would be your local service shop. Then feel free to give us a call at 888 Car Clinic or 888-227-2546. Alan, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you join us this morning.
Well, thank you, Bobby, and good morning. Hey, I need you to make sure. I need to make sure you have your catcher's mask on, because I'm going to throw you a wicked curveball, and I don't want to hurt you.
Okay, you have the mic. It's all yours.
All right. In 1995, I purchased. I was second owner of an '85 Mercury Capri, 5-liter, high-pull engine. Had only, like I said, 35,000 miles on it, but it was 10 years old. I was in northern Lower Michigan, Traverse City, Michigan. We were going to take the car to this car show in St. Ignace, which people should go to. There's like 5,000 hot rods for the whole weekend.
Wow.
It's incredible. But anyway, so I went to a dealership's quick change, and they talked me into putting synthetic oil in it, and I fell for it. Put the oil in. We drove 100 miles to St. Ignace. On the way back, it was like driving with a massive rain cloud, storm cloud behind you. You couldn't see the road. It was as wide as you could see, this belching smoke, just incredible. I discovered that if you disconnected the vacuum line from the distributor, it stopped smoking. And it would clear up. If you would hook the line back, within a couple minutes or 5 minutes or so, it was smoking again so severely you couldn't drive it. I've not found anyone that could diagnose the problem. It is still doing it to this day. I have to drive it with the vacuum line disconnected. I have gone back to conventional oil. I did call the oil company, the manufacturer of the synthetic I put in, and they said, no, you should not have, even though the car was only had 30,000 miles on it, because it was 10 years old, the synthetic disrupts the seals. But no one can tell me what has gone wrong internally to have that vacuum draw oil into the cylinders.
Okay, first I want to correct one of the things that you said, that someone at that oil place or that oil company that you called is totally inaccurate and totally wrong. Upgrading to synthetic oil in an 85 model, anything, does not disrupt seals. I beg to differ. That is a falsehood, a myth, and untrue. And inaccurate, and that person is uneducated. And if he works for any major brand oil company, you can send me offline his name, and I'll interview him right here on air. Synthetic oil got a bad rap because synthetic oil does clean an engine out. And it runs cleaner because it's just, I won't go into the technical reasons. But the only engines that didn't like synthetic oils were the early 50s and some of those classic cars. But all of the every engine fellow or engineer or engine person in the world that updates an engine, in a classic car, runs synthetic oil because it's superior and it gives better horsepower. But that's not neither here nor there. So the only reason that makes sense. First, is that a fuel injected vehicle? I think it is. No, it's not.
The
85.
The 85 is the last carbureted.
That's right, because 85 Ford trucks were the first one that had the injectors. Then 86 they went to the Ford. So the 85, was it a carburetor or a throttle body?
Carbureted. It had a Holley carburetor.
Okay. When you disconnect the vacuum line, the vacuum advance is controlled by ported vacuum, which means that the port in the carburetor that produces a lower atmospheric pressure, i.e. the vacuum for the vacuum advance, is placed just above the throttle plate. When you open the throttle plate minimally, then it allows vacuum from the engine, or low pressure, to reach up into that little tiny 1/16 of an inch port and draw vacuum on the distributor. At that time, it also draws a vacuum in other areas, perhaps the base of the carburetor where the PCV system is. And I suspect that you've got a PCV issue or an intake manifold gasket issue that is happy with no vacuum advance hooked up because you're creating a vacuum leak, because the vacuum chamber itself, if it works, is sealed, and even if it's blown, then the other side of the vacuum chamber going to the distributor is not exposed to the oil. It's exposed to outside of the engine, so all it would do is not work. That makes sense?
All right.
So if
Yes,
you
sir.
can prove to yourself and to yours truly that indeed you can stop this monstrous smoker by disconnecting the vacuum chamber vacuum hose, then you certainly should take the carburetor off and look for wet oil, and you will find that culprit. That should not be. That's not a tough question at all. I'll turn the mic back to you.
On that thermal plate that's under the carburetor, there is no oil there, and that's where I would presume it would be drawing into the intake. Correct? Off of that sensor on the back of
the PCV system. There on that plate underneath the carburetor, there is on some of those early Fords there is a nipple, and that's where the intake manifold. Yes. Does your car have that nipple?
Yes.
Well,
that's where the PCV valve connects in underneath in that carburetor.
That's the only connection to oil. That under the carburetor, that's the only connection to oil, and the distributor's not connected. So that's where your problem has to be.
Yeah, and it just doesn't show up there.
So let me ask you a question. Let me
Yes,
go
sir.
back specifically. If you hook the vacuum line up and you drive that car, it will start smoking.
Within a few minutes. Yeah.
Okay, great. So the next, go do that, and then take it home, and then pull the hose, put the hose back on, pull the hoses, the PCV hose, the vacuum hose going to the distributor, and any other vacuum attached to the intake manifold, and look for wet oil.
All right.
And you will find it.
I have done a lot playing with it, and that hasn't been my experience, but I will look again. I appreciate you.
But you understand what I'm saying? If that's the case, I'm sorry. So Alan, if that's the case, if you know and you can prove, and the only way to prove something, it's just like working on a car. You replace a part that's bad, and especially when you've got, say, one of those ambiguous parts that you worked on the car for 2.5 days, and you finally replaced one more part, and that fixed the car. Whenever that happens to me, as a rule, we're so happy that we finally fixed it. Because it was like chasing rabbits, I say sometimes. That and whenever that happened, not 100% of the time, but when that does happen, I will pull the part off the car that fixed it and put the old part back on to prove that part is defective, because I refuse to believe, in throwing parts at a car. And I will tell you, it sure is refreshing when you find the culprit. Now I'm talking about one of those really hard, and you've got a problem here that's been around for ages. I suspect you've got an intake manifold or valve guide.
I did just put intake gaskets on it.
Why?
I had a water leak.
Oh, okay.
But that PCV system seems to be the point with which the oil could be drawn into the intake.
Okay, and let me ask you this question. After you put the intake manifold gaskets on for the water leak, have you hooked the vacuum hose back up to see if this problem still exists?
I have not run it. I have not run it enough to check that yet.
Do it. You have made a major change in that engine that might well fix your problem. So hook that vacuum line back up, and don't settle for the fact that this is the way it's been, and I know what's wrong with this car, because you don't know what's wrong with the car. I've been there and done that, and now's a great opportunity for you to hook it back up and say, if you're going to smoke, go right ahead. I'm going to check it and make sure. And then call me back and let me know what that does for you.
All right, I'll send you a picture of the car.
Okay.
Maybe I'll drive up there. I'm in Sebring now. I'll drive up and bring you the car and show you.
Sebring, great. Well, send me a picture. My email is bobby@carclinicnetwork. That's my personal email, so don't tell anybody. bobby@carclinicnetwork.com.
Well, I can't tell anybody because I already forgot. Well, thank you for your time. I enjoyed the show. I've been meaning to call you for years to discuss this with you, and I just never got around to it.
Great to talk with you. Take care.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Let's go to take another call. Let me give the number. 888-227-2546, and we'll go to Mark. Mark, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hey, how's it going?
Great, terrific. You?
Yeah, I got a 2001 Jeep Grand Cherokee 4.0. I think you were talking about that engine earlier.
Oh, that bulletproof. If the rest of the car was bulletproof, well, those cars are, I will just say this, Mark. When I think of Jeeps, whether they're Wranglers or Cherokees, I think of one other make of car, and that's Subaru. People that have a Jeep have had or do have more than one, just like people that have Subarus, they have or have had or currently own more than one. I think it's a cult, and especially with Wranglers. We had a Wrangler come in here, and this young person bought this Wrangler that had never run before, and it had a modified engine and a V8 Chevrolet engine, and it had a flywheel with 5 teeth out of the flywheel, and he bought it. And it was jacked up, and it had all modifications. It had plug wires hanging everywhere, and so the first thing we had to do, because it didn't run, was to pull the transmission and put a flywheel and a starter on it. And when we did, we started to crank it up, and it didn't backfire. The timing was so high on the engine that it all but, I was afraid that it broke our new parts, and so anyway, the long story short, we had to put a new distributor because the Vance was seized and other things, but inside the distributor, so we put another distributor in it, and we couldn't help but tell the young man, you made a mistake here. Number one, he paid a ton of money for this vehicle, which should have been against the law, and then I said, well, as we were into it, I said, well, can you call the person that you bought it back and let me ask him some questions now that we've got the starter fixed on the car? He said, this guy won't even talk to me. He just sold me the car, and he left. And I felt really, we all, as a collectively, our whole group really felt sorry for this young guy that paid too much for this car and then had to spend money on it and never heard it run. And I just, I hope that somebody listening out there never buy something that you can't hear it run. Mark, I'm sorry. I've got a hard break coming up. When I come back, I'll turn the mic to you. Folks, thanks for tuning in. Don't go away.
Your car and your life have a lot of moving parts, and your car's battery is what keeps it all going. Here's something to keep in mind. While all batteries may look the same on the outside, it's what's inside that matters. So be sure to choose a battery with power frame technology inside. It's stronger, more durable, and keeps you going longer. That means you can count on a battery with power frame to be there start after start. Here's another reason to feel good about choosing a battery with power frame inside. It's manufactured using the latest sustainable processes. You're moving fast, and you don't want anything to slow you down, especially an unreliable battery. So the next time you need to replace your car's battery, make sure you choose one with power frame technology inside. Look for power frame on the outside, and know there's true strength on the inside.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that. Works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE, or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease, and she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now you know.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million, that it's new and improved, that it slices and dices, that our favorite singer is still alive, that we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags, and of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service, and that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website, a living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost, and most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We're talking with Mark, and so as I said before the break, Mark, I'll turn the mic back to you. You've got an 02 Jeep Cherokee with a transmission issue and your problem. How can I help you?
Yeah, it was an 01, but it it can't decide where the transmission wants to start and stop. I mean, it drives once I start it, and I can start it in neutral, reverse, wherever.
Really?
I didn't pay very much for it.
You need to fix that, though. But, I mean, that's an easy fix.
I don't know. A few things, it was making a racket when I drove it. I took the front shaft off, which the bearings were shot on the drive shaft. So
right.
I haven't fixed that. I'm going to fix it.
Okay.
But the transmission is the issue. Like I said, it drives forward. The engine is solid as a rock.
Right.
But the transmission, I can't get it to reverse. But I don't know what it is, if it's linkage, if it's solenoids, if it's transmission shot or what.
Well, it's a funny thing there, and neither do I without looking at it. But the bottom line is, two of the main concerns that you have, kind of bring an idea to my mind, and here's the idea. This vehicle has a neutral safety switch.
Yes.
A neutral safety switch, folks, is also a multi-switch in as much as most vehicles, and this is a general statement, so just understand that. The neutral safety switch interrupts the current going from the ignition switch to the starter when in the crank mode. So the battery voltage goes to the ignition switch, and then you turn the key, and the ignition switch sends voltage to the cranker, the starter solenoid, to make it start. But it doesn't go straight to the starter. It goes to the transmission, and it says, okay, are you in park or are you in neutral? We all know that, but I mean that's how the current flows. So you don't want to start a car in gear, because if you do, whoop, and if it's a standard transmission, you got to push the clutch in so that there's no possibility it'll be in gear. All right. So having said that same and many cars, that gear shift neutral safety switch is located on the side of the transmission where the linkage arm goes through. I don't know if that's the case on your vehicle, but if it is,
it is.
Okay.
It is. I've changed it.
Okay. So how ironic, though, and here's my thought. How ironic that your neutral safety switch it doesn't work, and also you can't get reverse, and you don't know if that shifter is working. So what I would do, I think maybe you could, just using a box-in wrench, and you could, let's see, well, probably you have to turn the key on to be able to turn the, you could disconnect the arm going to the car at the transmission so that the transmission is independent. In other words, take the arm off. And that's the easiest thing. Then you don't have to have somebody turn the key in, because in park, it's not going to come out of park until you turn the key. So disconnect the arm, take your ratchet, and click it into park and neutral and reverse and low. You know where that is, right?
Underneath?
Yeah.
I've seen it. I haven't gotten that far.
But in other words, if you were under the car and the Jeep, and I were shifting park, and I'd say that's park, now here's reverse, now here's neutral, click, 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 drive, and then low. Okay, all right, you got that right? Okay.
Yeah.
So then disconnect me disconnect my arm, which I'm in the car, so disconnect it from the transmission, and you do the same thing, click, 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 and then you go one click from park, because you know that reverse is one click from park.
Right.
And then you get in the car and crank it up and see if it works.
Oh, that's and if it doesn't, it means that I saw that they have some sort of solenoid pack in the transmission.
Now you're getting into diagnostics. I want to keep it as simple into mechanics. I mean, that's why we don't have mechanics anymore. We got technicians, because you're getting into the technical part. But I'm keeping this really straightforward. And the reason that I want someone to shift it while you're under it, not running, turn the key on but don't run it. The reason I want someone to shift it so that you'll know where park is, so that you'll know which direction to start, because you can start in low and go to drive. You see where I'm going? Yeah. So you know that if the stick pulls, and it pulls to 12 o'clock and then shifts to 5 o'clock, then you know that 12 o'clock is park. Disconnect the arm and move it from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock. Now you're in reverse, or one click, and you can feel the detent. You understand what I say, detent?
No, what does that mean?
Well, a notch.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
In the transmission, there's a pressure spring-loaded bullet that causes a detent, and it goes click, click, click. That's built into the valve body of the transmission, so that when you go from, otherwise it would not find its home in each gear. It would be freewheeling. So that would mean that whenever the shifting arm got it near reverse, if it didn't have a V-slot or a detent to fall in, it would not be securely and properly in each gear. It would be however well the transmission linkage was adjusted. You see where I'm going? So there's none of those cars that perfect. So even with a Morse cable, every shifter mechanism, every transmission uses a detent within the transmission, so that when it gets near a gear, it pops into gear.
Right.
It's like it's like ribs on a skateboard.
I saw a picture of it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Try that and let me know.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Let's go to New York. Take a call from Bill. Bill, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thanks for holding.
Hey, Bobby. Hi.
Oh, how you doing?
Okay.
Right.
Bobby, I've got a 2008 Dodge Ram 3500. It's a one-ton dually, and about about 6 months ago, I had an issue. I haul a RV. It's an 11,000-pound fifth wheel trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And I went on a trip, and I got in an issue where I was losing power, and it came up with a code. I believe it was P1011, and another code that it showed that I was having an issue with. And anyway, I changed the lift pump in the tank of the truck.
Right.
And that was like 6 months ago. I haven't had an issue with the truck at all. I just took my trailer, and we went down towards Pittsburgh through the Endless Mountains and all that, and this same issue cropped up again. So I know that the lift pump lubricates and cools the injector pump. My question is there something else I can put on, maybe a lift pump closer to the injector pump that will help with that issue? I do have a Banks system in the truck with a different airflow and that sort of thing.
Sure, I understand.
And I can crank that up with the by plugging into my port here and changing it from economy to power to that,
Right.
But I don't necessarily want to do that, I don't think.
Well, I don't think you should have to do that. I think for in other words, if I installed a Banks unit on my Ram, I shouldn't have to do anything but install the unit and make whatever adjustments that Banks says, because the lift pump just serves a minimum duty. I mean, it's necessary, but it just serves its duty to supply fuel at lower pressure. But I still think it's a couple hundred pounds. But that lift pump is not necessarily your problem. And I think before you, so it's not that I'm evading the question. A bigger question is, you're taking for granted, based on history, that you have the same problem. I don't see why or how you could have the same problem unless, when you replaced the lift pump, you actually corrected a wire plug or wire harness condition by simply unplugging it to get to the item, and you put the item in, and the item wasn't the fault at all, it was the plug. You see where my thoughts are there?
I do.
So what if all along you didn't need that pump, and the only reason that it supposedly corrected the problem is because you had to disconnect something to get to it, and when you did, you made a better connection. So I think you should say, I'm going to replace the lift pump. I'm going to tell the car I'm replacing the lift pump, but I'm not really. I'm just going to unplug it and say jumbo mumbo and plug it back in. I mean, Bill, it's worth a shot.
Okay.
Now, can you reach that plug without dropping the tank?
That's, I don't know. I don't think I could. It's up in there pretty good.
Well,
you know what I did is, on my trip here, I was going through some pretty long hauls, up
right.
hills.
Yes, sir.
And that's what I did it. And when I came back home, I changed my route, and I eliminated all those big long hauls, and it never came back on again. So that's why I thought that's what was going on. The pump wasn't providing enough fuel to cool it, but I see where you're coming from.
Yeah. Its job is it's like a Department of Transportation or the Army Corps of Engineers designing a bridge. They don't design the bridge to hold. Let's say it can hold 10,000 cars, or 10,000 semis. Well, they don't design it to hold 10,000 semis. They design it to hold 1 million semis. I mean, there's headroom. So the automobile manufacturers don't design engines. That's why we talk about the tuners and the Diablosports and super chips. That's why they can work, because the engineers never give you the whole load. That's why your bank system is superior, because the factory they gave you what was safe to use within parameters, within reason. So you're pushing the envelope because you want more power, and you got it. So I don't think that the issue is what we're thinking or what you were suggesting. I think the issue is that you did push that envelope. Do you have a EGT, exhaust gas temperature, on this vehicle?
No.
I think you should. I think I'm surprised the banks didn't have here's what I want you to do. Reach out to banks and explain. Talk to someone at banks, because they're great. It's a great company. Been around forever, as you know. Reach out to banks and say, when I push the envelope, here's the code that I get, because I get this one question. It's the first question I've ever had like this, or maybe the second one. How many do you think banks gets a day? You see where I'm going? So that may be a real simple answer to this. And I'll never forget that when I first started working on automatic transmissions years ago, there was a gentleman named Gil Younger in California that made transmission shift kits, and everybody in the industry used the kits. And I called him, and I was telling him how, I'd fixed 3 or 4 of these transmissions, and I wasn't an expert at it, but I knew about this. He told me, he says, you don't know anything at all. I said, what do you mean? He said, I take 200 calls a day. He said, here's what you need to check: A, B, X, and Z. And he was right on the money. So call banks, because I think that your question is a lot more simpler, and I believe it to be simple, if that's your business. You got it?
I got it.
Okay.
I will give them a call.
Good. Then call me back and let me know. Okay. All right. Thanks, Bill.
All right. Thanks, Bobby.
You're welcome. See, I learn every Saturday. Okay, so years ago, I met the CEO of a company named CarStar. And CarStar is North America's largest multi-shop operator network of independently owned collision repair facilities. And they really are auto body repair, the paintless dent repair, storm damage repair, and there's 24/7 accident assistance there as well. And folks, the CarStar delivers national scale, consistently high quality vehicle repairs, repeatable outcomes, and the industry's highest customer satisfaction ratings. You remember earlier I told you that we had some 377 five-star reviews? Well, CarStar probably has 37,000, five-star reviews. All repairs are backed by a national warranty and a service guarantee. So I mention this because recently CarStar did something really great, and it had to do with charity. And that's really for me, one of the highest honors is to help charity. And they have, for instance, Driven Brands Charitable Foundation, Children's Miracle Network, Make-A-Wish Foundation of America, National Military Recognition Month, the National Auto Body Council's Recycled Rides, It Can Wait initiatives, Skills USA, another great company that I interviewed the gentleman at Ford Motor Company and the 3 winners of the Skills USA. Anyway, the bottom line, there are many other programs across the country that CarStar Corporate is involved with, and their partner independent repair facilities. So heaven forbid you should have an accident, but if you do, check out CarStar for any location nationwide, and you'll be glad you did. That's all the time we have for today's broadcast, but the good news is, next Saturday, 10 till noon, you'll surely be right here. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
If you want the best performing battery, then an Optimal battery is the perfect choice for you. Featuring spiral cell and pure flow technology, Optimal batteries are up to 15 times more vibration resistant and will last up to 3 times as long as a traditional flooded battery. How? The purity of materials, immobilized plates, and cast-on strap help enable longer life and better performance. Optimal batteries, the ultimate power source. Find your next battery at OptimalBatteries.com. That's OptimalBatteries.com. Coolant leaks can be expensive, with repairs costing a few $1,000s or more. And these problems often hit vehicles late in life when they may be only worth a few $1,000s. There is an alternative. K-Seal is a pour-in solution designed to stop leaks and help prevent future leaks. Older sealers use sodium silicate, which has a tendency to clog the system. K-Seal features ceramic technology that's designed to repair the leak without clogging. Learn more about K-Seal at kseal.com. Don't just seal it, K-Seal it.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Rosie Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning.